Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry
Hare
to
Krishna Prabhuji, please forgive. We are not able to hear you. Sorry.
Huh, amazing. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter number 25, text number 41. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nanyatra madbhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. Nanyatra madbhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. Nanyatra madbhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutana bhayam tivram nivartate. Nanyatra madbhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutanam Nanyatra mad bhagavata pradhana purusheshwarat atmana sarvabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. Atmana sarvabhutanam bhayam tivram nivartate. Na, not anyatra, otherwise, mat, than myself, bhagavata, the supreme personality of Godhead, pradhana, purusha ishwarat, the lord of both prakriti and purusha, atmana, the soul, sarva bhutanam, of all living beings, bhayam, fear, tivram, terrible, nivartate, is forsaken. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself, for I am the Almighty Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the Supreme Soul of all souls. Purport. It is indicated herein that the cycle of birth and death cannot be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. It is said, Harim Vinana Mritim Taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same concept is confirmed herewith. One may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation, or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process. But whatever one may do, unless he comes to the point of surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no process can give him liberation. One may ask if this means one may ask if this means that those who are undergoing so much penance and austerity by strictly following the rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain. The answer is given by Srimad Bhagavatam. Ye ne Aravindaksha Vimukta Manina. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, there are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they have become liberated or one with God or have become God. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. They are less intelligent. It is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. I repeat, it is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. In purified intelligence, a living entity cannot think otherwise than to surrender. Bhagavad Gita therefore confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. Bahunam janmanam ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. After many, many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non devotional process, are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman. But actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. One should not be satisfied simply with engagement of Brahman. Sorry. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman, that is Bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Parabrahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit soul, an eternal servitor of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status, otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient, and therefore these persons fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated it is stated here by Lord Kapila, without my mercy, Nan Yatra Mad Bhagavata. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating indicating that he is full of all opulences and is therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhan because he is the supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders unto him, he is especially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend, but that to one who surrenders unto him, he is especially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go on in many, many lives and may many times attempt other processes for liberation. One second. Can you tell Archibald Prabhu after he finishes to take darshan pictures today? Why Prabhu Vamsi Vivu Chaitanya Prabhu is not coming and send after. Yeah. Oh my God. And Prabhu, sorry, actually my battery, my laptop is running out of charge. I forgot to bring the charger actually. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I by mistake I read the wrong verse. So I'll read the next verse and purport. Madbhayad vati vatoyam suryastapati madbhayad varshatindro dahatignir mrityuscharati madbhayad. It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me, the sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds Indra set forth flowers out of fear of me. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the natural laws being enacted are correct in all activities because of his superintendence. One should not think that nature is working automatically without superintendence. The Vedic literature says that the clouds are controlled by the demigod Indra, heat is distributed by the sun god, the soothing moonlight is distributed by Chandra, and the air is blowing under the arrangement of the demigod Vayu. But above all these demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the chief living entity. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. The demigods are also ordinary living entities, but due to their faithfulness, their devotional attitude, their devotional service attitude, they have been promoted to such posts. These different demigods or directors such as Chandra, Varuna, and Vayu are called Adhikari Devata. The demigods are departmental heads. The government of the Supreme Lord consists not only of one planet or two or three. There are millions of planets and millions of universes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a huge government and he requires assistance. The demigods are considered his bodily limbs These are the descriptions of the Vedic literature. Under these circumstances, the sun god, moon god, the fire god, and the air god are working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti, Suyate Sacharacharam. The natural laws are being conducted under his superintendence. Because he is in the background, everything is being performed punctually and regularly. One who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely protected from all other influences. He no longer serves or is obliged to anyone else. Of course, he is not disobedient to anyone, but his full power of thought is absorbed in the service of the Lord. The statements by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Kapila that under his direction the air is blowing, the fire is burning, and the sun is giving heat are not sentimental. The impersonalists may say that the Bhagavatam devotees create and imagine someone as a Supreme Personality of Godhead and assign qualifications to him, but actually it is neither an imagination nor an imposition of artificial power in the name of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is said, Bhishasmad Vata Pavate Bhisho Deti Surya. By fear of the Supreme Lord, the wind god and the sun god are acting. Bhishasmad Agnis Chandras Chamrityur Dhavati Panchama. Agni, Indra, and Mrityu are also acting under his direction. These are the statements of the Vedas. So again, Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I beg the blessings of all the devotees. I'm completely unqualified to speak, and especially the blessings of His Grace Yugal Kishore Prabhu. So, very wonderful Srimad Bhagavatam purports by Srila Prabhupada. So, the previous verse is also very, very wonderful. Her Grace Lalita Sundari Mataji spoke on it yesterday. So, the terrible fear of birth and death. So this is the greatest fear in this world. Like yesterday in the university, Shishi Radha Gopijana Vallabh Padavan Gaurahari, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So in the university program yesterday, when we were discussing, so I was telling the students that if you get the benediction that you become immortal, is any benediction, any position, any job, any achievement, is it even a comparison? So the terrible fear, so the ultimate fear is the fear of birth and death. And if that fear is eradicated, that fear is destroyed by devotional service, then one becomes immortal. So that ultimate benediction of conquering birth and death can never be forsaken by someone who resorts to any other shelter than the Supreme Lord. So let's study and let's try to understand why we need to surrender to the Supreme Lord. And why is it that this fear of birth and death, instead of human society, instead of destroying this fear, instead of solving, addressing this fear, human society is increasing this fear. So how is it happening? Bhagavatam explains that there are 4 cheating religions: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So these four aspects, 4 cheating religions, which is said by Bhagavatam, these 4 religions simply are like a infinite cycle. So there is no end to it. So you perform Dharma, then you get Artha. With Artha, you have some sense gratification, and ultimately you become tired of sense gratification and you want moksha. But this moksha, because it's not in the service of the Lord, moksha is like a break. Moksha is like laziness or tiredness. Like, for example, a simple karmi person, what he does, dharma means he works hard. After working hard, at the end of the month, he gets a paycheck. And after getting the paycheck, or after getting many paychecks, he goes on a vacation. And after going on a vacation for some time, he becomes bored. He says, oh, I'm so bored, enjoying, I don't know what to do. So now let me go back to work. So this is like an infinite cycle which keeps going on, whether it's, it's a baby child, or It's someone who's working at school, I mean, someone who's studying at school, someone who's working, or even in old age, the same principle continues. So there is no end to it. There is no end to it. So what is behind all these four things is actually people are looking for happiness. But instead of getting happiness, one always thinks, one always expects that there will be happiness, but he never gets happiness. He performs dharma, he thinks he will be happy, but no happiness. So he says, okay, let me go and get some artha. He gets artha, he has to pay the taxes, no happiness. Okay. Then after that, he says, now let me have some sense gratification. That also doesn't give happiness. Then he says, finally, let me take a break. Let me get liberated. Moksha. And there also no happiness, because the principle of moksha means that one is not engaging in service of the Supreme Lord. So whether it's impersonal liberation or in this world taking a break from sense gratification, the point is without service to the Lord, one cannot be happy. So there is no happiness in all these four things, but rather the desire to become happy, the expectation of becoming happy is increasing. So as a result of that, one experiences more and more suffering. Like, for example, if you're expecting this much happiness and you don't get it, yes, you'll be unhappy. But if you expect so much happiness and instead of getting happiness, you get little distress, that becomes the cause of extreme dissatisfaction, extreme frustration. So that's what is happening in this world, that those who are not following the principles of pure devotional service, they are propounding, they are preaching this kind of lifestyle. So that's why it's very important for us to be very careful with who and what we associate with. So the objects and the persons we associate with, we should study them in a humble way, in a reasonable way. And like Sri Krishna Prabhu says, that you should not trust anyone who does not have a serious sadhana. So it doesn't matter how dear he may be, it doesn't matter how externally he may be speaking so sweetly, but ultimately, if he does not have a serious spiritual practice, person should not be trusted. So if we associate with either objects or persons whose objective is not pure devotional service, then definitely we are going to fall in love, we are going to develop attachment and affection for dharma, artha, kama, or moksha. It's natural. It's natural, because whatever you become attached to, you become connected to, you become inspired by those kind of desires. So here it is very, very important. Like this shloka 41, yesterday Mataji spoke, and the theme is very, very important. The theme is actually that the Supreme Lord is the only one who can give shelter to someone who is experiencing the fear, terrible fear of birth and death. So the word terrible is also very important, because uh, death is actually a very scary, a very painful experience. So in the Shastra, it's mentioned that death is like, you know, many, many scorpions, thousands, I mean, hundreds of scorpions biting one at the same time. So for someone who is not completely attached, who is not completely dedicated to Krishna, then death is a very fearful experience. Just like the example we see Ajamil. When Ajamil saw the Yamadutas coming, Ajamil became very, very afraid, very, very afraid. So only Krishna can give shelter to one who is struggling this fear of birth and death. Bhaja Hure Mana Shri Nanda Nanda Nandana, sorry, Shri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. So the only one who can actually give this fearlessness by accepting one in his shelter is the Supreme Lord. So taking shelter is very, very important. So this mode of taking shelter is the sum and substance of bhakti. Sharanagati. Sharanagati means to surrender. So surrender means that, at least to start with the conception that I want to fulfill the desire of the Supreme Lord. And then the next is that I want to fulfill the desire of my spiritual master. So, or Srila Prabhupada, or Srila Prabhupada's mission. So, and including that, of course, the devotees and the uh, senior devotees, the Shiksha Gurus and the authorities in the temple. So they are all one desire, one plan. So Srila Prabhupada, the reason why Srila Prabhupada was very, very successful is because Srila Prabhupada fulfilled the master plan of the previous acharyas. So the previous acharyas made a master plan of spreading Krishna consciousness, and Srila Prabhupada followed in their footsteps and fulfilled their desire. So, first one has to develop this deep desire to surrender, because um, bhakti bhakti is the goal of every living entity. Every devotee in ISKCON, the goal of his life is bhakti. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that one one sees, but at the same time one is unable to see. So, and another verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also says that one should see, or one should perform. I forget the exact translation. Action and inaction, and inaction and action. So what that means is that yes, we act for the purpose of establishing the position of the Lord. The best example of this is the Pandavas. The Pandavas never struggled to establish themselves. They never struggled to establish. They struggled to establish the will of the Supreme Lord. So the reason why Arjun fought, the main reason everyone misses this point, is because Krishna told him to fight. That's the only reason. That's the main reason why he fought. He did not fight because of his Kshatriya. He did not fight because of his duty. He did not fight because of all these reasons. He fought. The reason why he changed his decision was because Krishna asked him to fight. That's the most important realization, the most important conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And that's why Arjun is Krishna's pure devotee. So, um, a real devotee, or a practicing devotee, he has a deep desire not to establish his own supremacy, but he wants to establish the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. And when he has that desire to surrender to the will of the Lord, then he can actually see action and inaction, and inaction and action. So what that means is that yes, you're doing everything, you're doing the services, you're trying to push forward the mission, but at the same time, in your heart, you're becoming more and more Krishna conscious. You're trying to become more and more Krishna conscious. So you're doing, your intelligence, your mind is engaged, but your main focus, your main attachment is to become Krishna conscious. So the purpose of every devotee in this movement is to become Krishna conscious. So this word Krishna conscious or Krishna consciousness has been used so many times in the purports, in the translation of Srila Prabhupada books. And that's the most important word, Krishna conscious. So it's not Krishna activity, it's Krishna conscious. But Srila Prabhupada says that we need Krishna activity, we need to serve Krishna in order to become Krishna conscious. Why? Because the senses and the mind is not completely purified. So we're acting to purify the senses and the mind, but actually, just like Srila Prabhupada says, that what Krishna is looking for in all of your services is the mood, is the feeling. It's not the actual activity. So, yes, the mind and intelligence is focused on the activity, but at the same time, internally, the heart, the desire is to develop our attraction to Krishna. Because pure devotee has the real intelligence. Like in this verse, in 41st verse, Krishna is speaking about what is spiritual intelligence. So spiritual intelligence is something which is ultimately awarded. After many, many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. So, what does this mean? It means that to surrender unto the Lord, that kind of intelligence has to be given by Krishna. It is not something that you can acquire. It is not something you can acquire. Um, if you can acquire that intelligence so cheaply, then there's so many Sanskrit scholars, so many people who have read Shastras in this world. Why is they not surrendering to Krishna? Why? Because this has to be given. So this is given when one comes in the association of devotees, in the association of sincere devotees, exalted devotees, then this intelligence is given. So this intelligence is given, like Krishna says, that I am the source of remembrance and forgetfulness. So Krishna inspires within the heart of someone who has a very deep desire to make progress, how to serve him, how to come closer to him. So Krishna inspires him to remember everything which is helps him to come closer to Krishna, and Krishna inspires him to forget everything which is not relevant to Krishna. So that's the position of pure devotees. Pure devotees, they remember what Krishna wants them to remember and they forget everything which Krishna wants them to forget. Like you see, pure devotees may go in very, very materialistic environment, very, very materialistic. Um, but because they are with Krishna and because they're completely protected by Krishna, so Krishna will inspire them to remember him and forget everything around him, everything around them. So, coming back to the topic of Krishna consciousness. So, Krishna consciousness means to have a deep desire to remember Krishna more and more and more. And although there are, we perform service, we perform activities in Krishna consciousness, and we are actually very much concerned about the results of those activities. We are concerned about the quality of the service, etc., etc. But at the same time, we should also be concerned, very much concerned about what is the mood. Because if your mood is correct, and if you make mistakes, if your mood is to please Krishna, then even if you make mistakes because your mood is correct, you will still rectify yourself, you will still take a humble position. You can do that. But if your mood is wrong, like I'm speaking for myself, if your mood is wrong and if you have so much false ego in your heart, then when you're corrected, when you see faults, then because the mood is wrong, you cannot correct, you cannot take a humble position. Before the whole world, before anyone humbles you, you have to humble yourself, which means you have to realize in your heart, saying to myself, that you're wrong. You're wrong. So, how will you get the power to realize that? The power will come when you have the correct mood. When you perform bhakti with the correct mood, with the desire to actually give loving service to Krishna. This is very important, loving service. So when we have a desire, deep desire to perform loving service, then actually we get the correct intelligence. So this process of surrender starts with hearing from those who are surrendered. So by hearing those who are surrendered, by reading, like you see in this purport, by reading the words of those who are surrendered, then one's previous sinful activities, one's previous karma, which is stopping him from surrendering, he becomes freed from that. And at least he gets the strength to surrender unto the Lord. Like we see the example yesterday, day before yesterday is Grace Bhagavad Chakra was quoting that pastime where the Brahmana, after being chastised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took such a humble position. So that's very, very special, actually, very special. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he is Krishna himself in the mood of Radha, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this world, he played the role of an acharya. He delivered the whole world. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him, when Mahaprabhu became upset at him, Mahaprabhu actually removed all the impediments in his heart to surrender. And because of that, because Mahaprabhu removed the impediments in his heart to surrender. He surrendered immediately. As soon as Mahaprabhu chastised, immediately he became so humble in his heart. And really, in the core of his heart, he was completely convinced. Brahmana. Milk bring Brahmacharya. Sorry, milk bring Brahmacharya. Sorry. So he's in his heart, he acknowledged that he made a mistake, and he had no hesitation, he had no resentment, but he accepted completely. So because he accepted completely with a humble mood, Mahaprabhu accepted him immediately. So this is very, very important. Um, this was a test, you can say in one way. This was a test to the Brahmana. And because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy and because of his sincerity, he was immediately able to surrender and he was able to get Mahaprabhu's complete mercy, full mercy, Mahaprabhu's complete mercy. So this is what Krishna wants, and pure devotees constantly teach this process of surrender again and again and again. So our ability to surrender, our ability to pass the test, the small tests that come in our life, it comes by pleasing devotees. By pleasing devotees. So pleasing devotees just does not mean externally pleasing. Like for example, some devotee, you ask for his blessings and he says, yeah, I'll give you my blessings, I'll pray for you. Or it does not mean that you perform one or two services and devotees are happy with you. No, really pleasing the devotees means that in your heart you are able to see, I'm speaking for myself, you are able to see the best in everyone. When you're able to see the best in everyone, when you're able to perceive their spiritual qualities, and when you're able to see everyone is your best well-wisher, ultimately you're able to see that everyone is your best well-wisher. Nobody is your enemy. Nobody can harm you. So when you're able to see devotees in this light, that means that you are actually trying to please. With every activity, you're really trying to please. Even though sometimes it may be difficult to please or follow certain instructions due to one very tired or etc etc, but if one's mood is correct, then this will be the vision. This will be the vision, and in that way you can draw strength from everyone. You can draw strength from everyone's words, from everyone's example, from everyone's inspiration, blessings, etc. So then, when that is the real meaning actually of becoming the servant of the servant. So becoming the servant of the servant means you have so many masters above you. And the goal of Trirandapi Sunichana verse is actually to see everyone more advanced than you. That's the goal. So when you see everyone more advanced, everyone doing so well spiritually, then actually you can become the servant. And in that humble mood, when you, whatever you may do, you may just pay obeisances, you may say Hare Krishna. In that humble mood, when you interact with everyone, then by their causeless mercy, you can achieve Bhakti Adhikar. You can achieve the qualification to the strength, the qualification to actually experience the love that Krishna has in the heart. So the real Adhikari Devata, or the real persons who can give Bhakti Adhikar are the devotees, of the Lord. So yes, we have taken shelter of Krishna, so we are protected from external influences. We don't have obligations to persons outside, but we have obligations to the devotees. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed this example so wonderfully, that although Mahaprabhu is a Supreme Lord, he's completely independent. But at the same time, he's bowed down, he was subservient to the desires of his devotees. Like so many times Nityananda Prabhu and other devotees asked Mahaprabhu not to go to Vrindavan, and Mahaprabhu agreed. Mahaprabhu, Sarvam Bhattacharya asked Mahaprabhu to stay for more time in his house. Mahaprabhu agreed. So many cases you can see how Mahaprabhu submitted to the desires of his pure devotees. Mahaprabhu would go to Haridas Thakur's place every day and deliver him prasad. So this shows how Mahaprabhu is subservient to the desire of his devotees, and that means Mahaprabhu wants us to follow his example. So, of course, it does not mean that you serve everyone. No, you principally serve. You start with serving your service authority, um, and but at the same time, this favorable mood towards everyone is very important. It's very important, and that's the secret of making advancement in Krishna consciousness, by developing this mood of the servant of the servant. So when I'm not there, but I'm aspiring to be there. When someone has this mood of being the servant of the servant, then when he becomes successful, when he gets taste in Krishna consciousness, he does not become proud, because he is fully convinced in the core of his heart that whatever he has gotten, whatever he will get, is simply by the mercy of the devotees. He never, he does not have the doership mentality. And this is all coming by the blessings of the devotees. The devotees are pouring blessings on that one devotee. Because of that, he is so successful. Again and again, we see the example of our present acharyas, the present pure devotees, how much devotees are pleased with them, how much. I'm not speaking about now as sannyasis as gurus, but when we hear about their brahmachari days or initial days, how much they please devotees, how much they were collecting blessings of devotees every day, every month, every year. So this is the success. This is the secret to attain success, is to get the blessings of the devotees. Of course, principally the blessings of the authorities, by trying to follow the instructions. But just following the instructions is not enough, but to understand their mood. And so we have to become very sensitive to their mood. What is their mood? So when they are merciful and they reveal to us, they speak about their mood of Krishna consciousness, and we surrender, we come in, we sync with their mood, uh, then we actually get their mercy, we get their blessings. And that is the secret of taking shelter of Krishna. Taking shelter of Krishna means taking shelter of his devotees. One who takes shelter of Krishna independent of his devotees, Srila Prabhupada says, is Kanishtadhikari. So if one wants to come to the platform of developing love, realizing something in the direction, going in the direction, at least a little bit, then one needs to take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Like even in Golok Vrindavan, if someone goes back to Godhead, Srila Prabhupada says that one will serve an associate of Krishna. So his complete focus will be on fulfilling that service to that particular associate. Um, he is not thinking about serving Krishna directly. So if we don't cultivate this mood, aspiring to cultivate this mood of becoming the servant of the servant, sincerely aspiring, and dealing with all devotees very humbly. This is very important. Speaking for myself only here, that especially when we deal with devotees who are quote unquote junior, nobody is junior, or even quote unquote equal. Nobody is equal, everyone is special in their own right. But when we deal with them, many times we deal very casually with them. And as a result of dealing casually with them, we lose their mercy. We don't see them as devotees. We don't see them as wonderful devotees. And because of that, we lose their mercy. We lose the opportunity to hear Krishna from them. Like we are with devotees, when we hear them speaking classes, they speak so wonderfully. But then because of, speaking for myself, because of false ego, whenever we are with them, we can hear Krishna Katha from them. We can get instructions from them. But instead of taking advantage of their association, we just kind of, speak for myself, we just, speak to them very casually or sometimes very neglectfully, and we lose their mercy. We lose their mercy. So it's very important. Vaishnav etiquette is very, very important. Vaishnav etiquette, it's not a detail. It's not like an external artificial cultivation. It's not like being nice. It's something that comes out of one's sadhana, out of one's seva. Mood is reflected through Vaishnav etiquette. So this the way to respect and treat the devotees and serve the devotees is the key to success in spiritual life. And it's very, very important. Like, devotees are very, very powerful, very merciful. So we have to take shelter of them. Without them, there is no hope. And that's why Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, to give everyone the chance to take shelter of devotees. So taking shelter of devotees means hearing from them, trying to serve them, whoever it may be, and having a desire to actually please them. So my spiritual master says, if you live with devotees, but you don't have a desire to please them, then you'll commit offense. Definitely you'll commit offense somewhere down the line. So of course, you cannot please everyone, but still to some level, the desire to please should be there. So the shelter of the devotees is the only hope. We can see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, although different associates of the Lord, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, they all, in their own right, they're pure devotees, but they still resided in the society. They still were in the society of devotees. They took shelter of the devotees. So that's why Mahaprabhu says that even after attaining the supreme goal of life, Krishna Prem, still one should demonstrate this subservient nature to the devotees of the Lord. So I would like to end here. Please forgive me if I spoke anything wrong or inappropriate. Please pray that I can apply what I spoke. Anyone has any question or comment online?
Follow the instructions.
I mean, like I said, Srila Prabhupada says that you try to please everyone, then you'll please no one. So when it comes to instructions, then yeah, we have authority. But we can take shiksha from anyone. But I mean, we can take inspiration from anyone. But pleasing a devotee means, yeah, to help that devotee in whatever little way you can, to bring him closer to Krishna. So like what I'm speaking about is like small things, but yeah, the most important thing is our behavior, our service attitude to the people who we live with. That's the most important thing. I mean, naturally what will happen is that when we live with someone, uh, due to proximity, we may not get the same kind of respect and the same kind of affection that we get from people who we don't live with. It's natural. But maturity is to acknowledge it and take a humble position and still try to serve, try to wish the best for that person, even though that person may speak hurtfully, even though that person may act, but still desiring the best for that person. Because ultimately, although we may not respect in our heart, I mean, we should, but sometimes we don't. I speak to myself, we may not value and deeply respect the people we live with. They are actually doing the greatest seva for us in our life. Because why? It's only because of their mercy, their, you can say, tolerance, that we are able to perform devotional service. So they're actually doing the greatest service to us, you know. So yeah, I'm principally speaking about that. And then yeah, of course, any devotee in whatever little way you can try to please. It's very, even if you pray for a devotee, even for like 30 seconds, you look at a devotee, you pray for him. Yeah, that's very, very wonderful. Because in that helps us to actually appreciate um, that devotee more and more. and get his mercy. So yeah, whatever little you can do for any devotee to help him in his service to Krishna, to encourage him in his service to Krishna, to support him in his service to Krishna, whatever you can do, you should try to do. But at the same time, sometimes if we are time pressed, if we cannot, if we humbly, with a humble mood, we say that, Prabhu, sorry, I'm busy, I cannot do because I have this service. I have this other service at this time. Then yeah, that's all right.
I have desire to do service, but as you mentioned, there is no time, sometimes, you have some other priority, not priority, like, maybe time constraints like this, you have desire to do, but the devotee asks for service to be service. I say sorry for the offending devotee.
No, it's not an offense, but I mean, you can tell that devotee that no, I'm right now I'm doing some other service, so I have something else to do, so therefore I cannot do. Or you can even say sometimes if it's difficult and I'm very tired, I'm sorry, I want to take some rest. I mean, if it's not a time sensitive seva, you can say that.
So pleasing, sometimes pleasing is not easy.
Yeah, so in the case of kids, now, Prabhu, pleasing them means what it really means to please someone means to take them forward in the Krishna consciousness. So, especially for those of you living, I mean, whoever, whether your son or daughter or whoever, wife, husband, pleasing them means taking them closer to Krishna. That's what it really means. So, sometimes if you may have to speak the the truth as it is, then yeah, I mean, in a humble mood, if you speak, then it's for their ultimate benefit. So yeah, they may not like it, but the most important thing is the mood in which you present. So if you have a deep desire to take them closer to Krishna and you present in a humble mood, uh, many times being for myself, we may correct and we may say the right thing, but I say it in the wrong mood with so much false ego. So then, that person, it hits that person that, oh, this person, okay, whatever he may saying, that's one thing, but then, he's hitting he has a desire to, make me feel small, so they can feel that. So when they feel that, then they become discouraged. But if you say, like, in a very, mature kind of sober way that, this is not appropriate, this is not good for you. Firm, humble, but firm at the same time. Then, that's good. Prabhu is the best example of that. If any conveys anything, any correction, is so humble. You can see that he has nothing in it for himself. So you can learn.
The devotees we have, like, we may speak very informally, without intimacy. So, like, as brothers, it might look disrespectful.
No, we don't have to be formal, but we have to be respectful. So we can be intimate, but at the same time respectful. So like, yeah, we can be intimate, but respectful. So see, there's no problem of intimacy when we speak in a positive way. There's no problem. But the problem of intimacy comes now when we speak in a negative way. So that's the thing. So positive, no problem. But negative is a problem. So when you're glorifying some devotee, when you're speaking sweetly, intimacy is required. But speaking for myself, when we correct some devotee, and then then intimacy actually can, if you're not careful, it will take a reverse effect, and we'll speak you know casually in a negative way, and that may basically we have to be very careful that the devotees that we are dealing with, they should always feel in their heart that, okay, this person is my best well-wisher. He's saying my benefit only. So that should come in their heart. That's the goal. But intimacy is fine. There's no problem with intimacy. Yes, Sundari Prabhu. One second. My thing is muted. 1 second. Yes,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Tell me.
Prabhuji, can you hear me, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. I can hear you, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I've been listening to your class on YouTube. I just joined the Zoom call. One thing, Prabhuji, I keep debating within myself, and we keep hearing about association, having right association.
Hmm.
One thing is, I know I got very limited intelligence, and a very limited devotional attachment. To find the right association, that means I'll be using my own intuition, my own intelligence to identify my own for the right association. I get confused sometimes when I keep hearing association. Of course, I'll be using my intelligence, my preferences. Like maybe people look in certain way, they are nice to me. People speak in certain languages are nice to me. Is that the way I should identify my right association, Prabhuji? If they look certain way, if they talk certain way, if they do certain things, they are nice, they are right people for me to associate with? Or what is the criteria to find out which is the right, to identify the right association for myself, Prabhuji?
Yeah, bro. I mean, if the best thing is to pray, when you pray very deeply, then what will happen is that you will get to know the mood of a Vaishnava. See, the mood of the Vaishnava is most important, and you can, when you feel his devotion, then you can understand. You don't have to study him like head to toe, but you see him over a period of time, and yeah, especially by Krishna's mercy. So if you're really crying in your heart, if you really have a deep desire, Krishna will reveal to you who Krishna wants you to associate with. So we have to be very sincere, very strict with our own practices, sadhana bhakti, as much as possible. And at the same time, we should pray. Then Krishna will reveal in our heart. And basically, the association we want is devotees who are 100% fully dedicated to achieving pure devotional service. They are in the mission, they are working in the mission, they're very sincerely trying to work in the mission, and they're completely dedicated to the mission of Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, they have a deep desire to go deep in their Krishna consciousness. So both things at the same time. And that's when both these things they come together, then it brings real humility. So yeah, such devotees we want to associate. So yeah, if you pray, and I mean, of course, you are very wonderful, but if someone prays and someone is very sincere, then Krishna will reveal in his heart the kind of association and how that association will develop. Now, somewhere, some conversation will strike, and you will become very attracted to the devotion of the devotee. Wow, this devotee has such deep devotion, and you'll become inspired by him to grow in your Krishna consciousness. So then you can understand that, yeah, he's bona fide. I mean, he's the right association for you.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you very much. That really helps. Yeah.
Okay, please forgive me for speaking in front of so many exalted devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.